So we have Elijah here to be our skeptic. So Paul in his homeroom is discussing ETs, and I have been waiting patiently for people to discover the fact that there's something going on. And I am not saying that what is going on is that there are actually extraterrestrials. I want to make that clear. That is not what I am saying. What I am saying is there is something we should be paying attention to. Griswold Grimm says, I promise you, this information stream won't mention that aliens genetically modified the Sumerians. You're probably not saying it's Project Bluebeam either. You know, Grimm, there's a link. You're free to join and say whatever you would like. I'm glad I made it in time. The UFO dropped me off my backyard, if you know. I just believe in science less than most people. Okay. ETs have infected the collective consciousness. Popcorn is not a healthy food. Did you know that? Definitely not a healthy food. So, the 9-page report of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, preliminary assessment, unidentified aerial phenomena, June 25th, 2021. So that's like 2 years ago, almost exactly. And I believe this was a report for Congress, but I'm not saying that, and it's been years. But anyway, worthwhile. Scope and assumptions. This preliminary report is provided by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence in response to the provision in Senate Report 116-233. So I was right. The Senate was involved. Accompanying the Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 2021, that the DNI, in consultation with the Secretary of Defense, is to submit an intelligence assessment of the threat posed by unidentified aerial phenomena and the progress the Department of Defense Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force has made in understanding this threat. This report provides an overview for policymakers of the challenges associated with characterizing the potential threat posed by UAP, that's the new way of saying UFOs, while also providing a means to develop relevant processes, policies, technologies, and training for the U.S. military and other U.S. government personnel if and when they encounter UAP, so as to enhance the intelligence community's, don't you love the intelligence community, ability to understand the threat. The director, task force, UAPTF, which is the task force. That's not a well-constructed grammatical sentence, but whatever, is the accountable official for ensuring the timely collection and consolidation of data on UAP. The data set described in this report is currently limited primarily to U.S. government reporting of incidents occurring from November 2004 to March 2021. Data continues to be collected and analyzed. ODNI prepared this report for the Congressional Intelligence and Armed Services Committees, UAPTF, and the ODNI, National Intelligence Manager for Aviation, drafted this report with input from USDINS, not even sure what that is. DIA, also not sure what that is. FBI, I know what that is. NRO, not sure what that is. NGA, not sure. NSA, yes. Air Force, Army, Navy ONI, I'm not sure what that is. DARPA, I've heard that before. I don't remember what DARPA was. FAA, know that. NOAA, don't know that. NGA, don't know that. ODNI, NIM, Emerging and Disruptive Technology. Something under the Director of National Intelligence. ODNI, National Counterintelligence and Security Center. And ODNI, National Intelligence Council. I'm surprised the National Security Council isn't involved in this. Various forms of sensors that register UAP generally operate correctly and capture enough real data to allow initial assessments, but some UAP may be attributable to sensor anomalies. Executive summary. The limited amount of high-quality reporting on identified aerial phenomena hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature or intent of UAP. The task force considered a range of information on UAP described in U.S. military and IC reporting. But because the reporting lacked sufficient specificity, ultimately recognized that a unique, tailored reporting process was required to provide sufficient data for analysis of UAP events. As a result, the task force concentrated its review on reports that occurred between 2004 and 2021, the majority of which are a result of this new tailored process to better capture UAP events through formalized reporting. There's a reason why I'm reading this to you. This is the entirety of our government. This is a report by the executive branch to the legislative branch about what our federal government understands of UAPs. And the content of it is not your general, normal, oh, this is bullshit. So you have to ask yourself, why aren't they just saying, like they used to, this is bullshit? Pull my finger, Elliot. Let's see. Anybody saying anything? Jacob, the clear tinfoil doesn't work. You need the real stuff. I'm reading from the Director of National Intelligence's report to the Senate Intelligence Committee. If this is tinfoil stuff, we have problems. I'm saying if there's any other things I should be talking. Department on misappropriating tax dollars and siphoning Social Security. Hey, I am not doubting what you're saying at all. I am in no position to say that the DNI is not just a grifter using this as a psyop to distract us from other things. I am making zero assertions that what is going on right now is not a psyop to distract us by people in the government. Zero. Hey, Richard, it's not tinfoil stuff. By the way, Richard, my the article I wrote on Substack is pinned to my Twitter. And I got a very interesting email I'm wondering what I can read out of it. I'm just going to say that white women's tears are not a new sacrament of Christianity. I have this from good sources within Christianity who tell me that white women crying is not a sacrament now. Just letting you know. There's definitely something going on. By chance, Maynard's UFO A-frame metal saucer swing set is on sale this week for $50 while supplies last. I have no idea what you're saying. Don't the ancient alien narratives pretty much line up totally with the narrative of Enoch? I mean, we can talk about the eschatology of it, but I am content to allow to simply say this seems like something we should be paying attention to. And the DNI's report to the Senate Intelligence Committee seems like something people should have heard of. It's not a 90-page report. It's not a 900-page report. It's a 9-page report. Yet, apparently I'm the only person who's read it. You want to explain that to me? Jacob, you are the reason my time spent at work is so enjoyable. Let's stick with aliens today. You know, there's like 20 people watching, and 0 of them have clicked on my link. 0. The 11th commandment says, "Thou white woman shall not cry." Yeah, there's a reason I don't bring Avi Loeb on because frankly, I have 0 capacity to negate the idea that he is some sort of Mossad psyop. I don't know the man. Also, I think aliens being pushed by the government and entertainment industry is going to be used to try and replace religion. This is not an insane theory at all. White women crying is not a new sacrament of Christianity is the most savage thing I've heard in the TLC, and I'm here for it. This reminds of AOC's Green Bill, which was, I totally would join, but I'm in place with god-awful connection. Well, what can I say? Back to the report. Where were we? As a result, the task force concentrated its review on, we read that. Most of the UAP reported probably do represent physical objects, given that a majority of UAP were registered across multiple sensors to include radar, infrared, electro-optical, weapon seekers, and visual observation. So all the supposed debunkers, we're talking multiple sensors. shut up. This is not just some censor mirage. Or, yeah, that's not what's going on. And if that is what's going on, and the DNI is writing a report to the US Senate where they don't understand that, isn't that a cause for concern? You're debunking things from your armchair that the DNI is reporting to Congress. Like, how people don't understand that this is serious, like, civilization impacting stuff they should be paying more attention to than, oh, I don't know, Prince Harry and half the stuff we end up talking about. This is in bold, so it must be important. In a limited number of incidents, UAP reportedly appear to exhibit unusual flight characteristics. These observations could be the result of sensor errors, spoofing, or observer misperception and require additional rigorous analysis. Gee, if you're writing a report to Congress, I don't know, maybe you should get on that? This is Avi Loeb's thing. He's like, okay, you want rigorous analysis? Give me a few $1 million and some good sensors, and I'll make rigorous analysis happen. There are probably multiple types of UAP requiring different explanations based on the range of appearances and behaviors described in the available reporting. UAP clearly pose a safety of flight issue and may pose a challenge to U.S. national security. How is this not front page news? Consistent consolidation of reports from across the federal government, standardized reporting, increased collection and analysis, and a streamlined process for screening all such reports against a broad range of relevant USG data will allow for a more sophisticated analysis of UAP that is likely to deepen our understanding. And this is what makes people think this might be a PSYOP. And I'm not saying it's not a PSYOP. I'm not. I'm saying if there's a PSYOP like this going on, maybe we should be paying attention. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Yes, I put the link in the chat. Okay, we are noticing. Now what? Good question, Elijah. Good question. I agree. Now what? I think part of the reason most people don't talk about it is because they are materialistic, and if the government told them we were monkeys who got banged by aliens, they would believe it and do that. Phlebas, you're hilarious. Richard says, I think we should prepare palaces for our future extraterrestrial masters. I don't. Frankly, if these extraterrestrials wanted to, if these are extraterrestrials and they wanted to do anything with us, I think like our level of sophistication compared to them would be at the very least like a tribe in the Amazon trying to build something for us. We will need to placate them? No. We may need to hope they will accept us as pets. I mean, come on. Look at how much fun Shadow's having. Earth has the best defense in the world, Florida man. I have no clue what you're saying here, Clevis. If you were making a human tree, what kind of toys would you put on the human tree? I'm thinking World of Warcraft. The narrative goes like this. We made nukes. They come to the deserts out west and whispered even more advanced texts in our ears. Fiber optics, the internet, etc., etc. Maybe they're not like us studying and owning lower being. Maybe they don't care about us that much. Quite possible. I mean, but we're already jumping to the idea that they exist. If we do meet the ATs, let's make sure we get them a nice a welcome basket. Will they teach us next level Torah? Oh, Jewish space lasers. Yes, Jewish space lasers. You're gonna have to talk to Chazi about the Jewish space lasers. Aha. It's a psyop, but my brother in Christ, it worked. I don't care. Seraphim Rose believed aliens were demons. He wrote and spoke about this years ago. The Rebbe said that aliens could be angels. Do you think military tech has advanced so much that the US is falling behind? That's actually one of the possibilities, is maybe China has some sort of tech that is beyond us, and that's what's behind us. And it doesn't actually have to be the type of tech you think it is. It could merely be sensor disrupting tech. Aren't spiritual beings immaterial? Ha 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 ha. You're being silly. I have no idea why so many people are sitting there watching me eat popcorn. But there's definitely a lot of you sitting there eating and watching me eat popcorn. Reminds me of Havana syndrome. So much out there we don't know. Well, the problem is we can't trust a lot of the people we should trust to figure this out, right? So the proper thing would be for me to have enough trust in the DNI and the Senate and the Congress and the president Jacob Popcorn ASMR. That's exactly it. Um, um, the proper thing would be for us to have any confidence that the president of the United States is sentient, as are members of our legislature, and they are spending the appropriate resources, asking the correct questions, and making things happen in ways we could trust. Richard says, government can't compromise sources and methods. Again, part of the problem, and Eric Weinstein talks about this stuff very intelligently. Part of the problem is if we're being serious about this, I would expect people like, if not Eric Weinstein, Brian Keating, Elon Musk, to have security clearances and have the information to make more sense of any of this stuff than anything I would be able to make. But none of us trust them. I mean, I certainly don't trust them. They are all sentient. They just have very different motivations than normal people. I'm sorry. You're going to have to try a lot harder to prove to make me think that Joe Biden is sentient. If you don't think Dianne Feinstein is mentally competent, then you're an anti-Semite. Why would the former Israeli space security chief and former Canadian defense minister say there is a galactic federation? Oh, there's plenty of reasons they might. To me, the internet is an obvious beginning to the alien invasion. Chazi, Canada's army is only 50,000 people right now. The defense minister also has to work in the cafeteria double duty. It's so weird Jacob dressed up to match Richard's avatar. I did? What's Richard's avatar? It's just an R. Yes, I had lots of fun listening to Art Bell, and then George Nuri. But honestly, I mean, that's the type of stuff I would listen to and be like, not interesting. It's that green to me. Okay. Like, my shirt would have matched some color. Although, yeah, this is my Carlsbad Cavern shirt. It's not even my Four Corners shirt. Is my Carlsbad Cavern, like, is Carlsbad Caverns adequately Area 51-ish? I suppose so. I suppose so. Richard, you have so much more confidence in the government than pretty much anybody in this little corner. Yeah. Sorry. I studied the US government way too much to think any people are competent there. People assume conspiracy, but what they should assume is negligence. Oh, I assume negligence. I definitely, yep, incompetence, malfeasance, corruption, all of the above. Grizz, you're getting worked up. Don't get worked up. This is an important point. Private corporations aren't answerable to the people and have been handling the discovered tech for decades. A reform of our corporation system is definitely in order. See my long rants about PG&E. That's one of my favorite new jokes. Is saying I'm proud the same as I am pride affirming? I did wonder if the Proud Boys weren't a little bit too homoerotic. I am hopeful they won't take your channel down, Grizz. I mean, I can't promise anything, but what was PBK talking about with the trucks in his city? I have no clue what you're talking about. All hard right-wingers are homoerotic Sparta as far right as it can go. Honestly, Bronze Age pervert, like, the fact that the Neo RX people don't recognize they've been totally co-opted by the postmodernists would be comical if it weren't so sad. Yeah, I suspect YouTube will only get worse and worse and worse, which is part of the reason I want Randos United to be a thing, because then we're not really at the mercy of the of YouTube. There's enough of us that if we need to, we'll just move on to Twitch or Twitter or whatever. ET is a false nomer, though. They're native at this point, under the sea. So there's a reason why I said why I named this what I did. ET phone homeroom, because I wanted to make a joke about Paul Vanderklay's homeroom. Don't go to Twitch. Twitch is awful. I already broadcast on Twitch. And I've met some nice people on Twitch, but no, Discord very much is not the optimal platform. And I would never rely on any one thing. Anyway, I'm pretty sure Discord is fully working with the federal government. Hey, guy. I got my first 3-hour ban on Twitter today. I was surprised. What'd you do? That we aren't establishing CB radio backscatter network means we'll die with the sheep. But at least we'll have argued out which branch of God worship we like best. Hold on. You got a 3-hour ban for your likes. I don't even understand. I don't at all understand. Discord is China. No one look up 10-cent because dilettantes don't stay in the corner. I have no clue what you're talking about. But I'm all out of popcorn. Yes, of course you're allowed to join the stream. I will put yet another invite into the chat. This flotilla needs a prepper wing. I have been trying very hard to get a prepper wing going. You might have noticed. I forgot your name.
Andre, that's the one.
Andre. How you doing, Andre?
And not too bad, not too bad. How about yourself?
Good. What does your hat say? Hits.
This is my friend's band, the Tin Pigeons. He's the drummer.
Pigeons.
Yeah, bit of a weird one, but
yeah. This is my favorite shirt, my favorite hat right now. It says "Made You Look."
Oh.
I opted not to go with "Make America Read Again" because that in Los Angeles is just too dangerous. But
yeah,
I definitely would have preferred a "Make America Read Again" hat.
The thing is, like, it's a bit like the game, you know, like when you say, "Oh, you just lost the game." You just did that to be with your hat. You know the game?
I did not know the game.
Oh, I'm about to ruin your life. So basically, the game is the aim of the game is to not remember the game. So, and any time you remember the game, you lose the game.
Okay.
Is that not like a thing in America?
It is not a thing.
Oh.
You know what else is not a thing, but I wish was a thing?
Go for it.
It's called London rhyming slang.
Oh, Cockney rhyming slang. Apples and pears.
Oh, is it Cockney? I thought it was London. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, Cockney rhyming slang. Yes.
Yeah, like, oh, yeah.
And it's incredibly hard to understand, and I just think it's the most brilliant thing that people can actually speak it.
Yeah. If you've ever heard of, what are they called? Is it the Pearly Kings or what are they called? You get where they've got like all the buttons on them and everything, and they can just speak fluent Cockney slang. It's crazy. There's like these kings and queens in London who can do it.
It's amazing that people like can understand each other.
Yeah, I mean, we still use like contracted forms of the slang.
Yeah, that's how I found out about it.
Yeah, like I don't have a Scooby. Means like I don't know. I don't have a clue. Scooby-Doo, clue.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's all stuff like that. I find it so hard to imagine speaking it, but I guess people do, and it's there you go.
But it kind of reminds me of like Hebrew when you have like little acronyms about stuff, and then everybody just knows what that means.
Yeah, and not just the acronyms. I mean, when you write Hebrew, in fact, that is precisely what I was thinking of in terms of when you write Hebrew without the vocalization, right? And
Yeah.
you can read it. It is very much like rhyming slang.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was watching like this Hebrew comedy thing earlier. It was like a modern Hebrew speaker meets a Yemenite Hebrew speaker, and he starts using all these. I know Yemenite again, and he starts using all these little contractions. It's like rug and like he's got all these weird ones, and it's like all like funny little slang. Like they they chew this like plant called gat or something like that, and he's got like all these little funny slang, and then he just says two random words that are just all acronyms, and the whole audience is just in tears, and I'm like, what's going on?
Okay, I'm gonna have to see this, but when I was in Israel, the only one who understood me was my cousin, who's an archaeologist, because I was trying to speak like rabbinic Hebrew, right? And modern Hebrew has all these. So modern Hebrew doesn't use all seven of the binyanim, and so
Is
like
this the Beget Kept or something like that?
no. Beget Kefet is something completely different.
Oh, okay.
That Beget Kefet doesn't change the meaning of anything. No, the binyanim are the seven forms you can put the roots into, right? So, for example, there's the root katav, which means to write, right?
Mhm.
And if you put it in hufal, it becomes huchtav, right? Meaning
Right.
it was etched, right? And so I would put things in all seven of the binyanim, all seven of the constructions, and like in modern Hebrew, people don't use them. So I was I was speaking in some weird version of archaic Hebrew, and my cousin who's an archaeologist understood me just fine. Everybody else had a hell of a time understanding me.
Yeah, that reminds me of Arabic though, because I think they do the same thing, where they kind of have different forms depending on the tense or
Yeah.
what you're actually referring to. So that seems like it would be the correct way. So they just don't teach that, or is it just like
It's no, naturally people start using only certain binyanim, and like people don't just switch into binyanim that other people don't use. Like certain roots, just for example, I don't know, like daber, right? So you say in modern Hebrew, you say medaber, you never say dover. Um, they're two very similar constructs, and most words either you use one or the other. You rarely use the same root in both, and people are used to which one it is, and I'm not. So I was taking a root and just sticking it into a binyan, and and people are like, "What are you saying?"
well, I guess it's a bit
In
like if
English,
you had
we've
Shakespeare in
lost.
English or something. Oh,
In
sorry.
English, we've lost things like that. So I was reading a magazine article about Dutch politics, and one of the Dutch parties ends in bewittig, which means group or community.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that's an interesting one because bewittig is actually be with us, basically. But we say beside, before, behind, but not be with anymore. And so that's roughly what you were doing. Is that sort of like
Yeah.
constructing that doesn't make sense in our language.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it
So-
just interested me that when you were saying that, I was like, oh yeah, I've just seen that somewhere else.
So, Guy and Andre and Andrew, what are your thoughts about ET phone homeroom?
He should.
About what?
His mum wants him to phone home. Your mother always wants you to phone home. Except my mother who moved house and didn't tell me that. Yeah, let's not mention that.
So, Guy, what are your thoughts about extraterrestrials?
Mathematically, there must be.
Yeah. When I found out there are thousands of what people call M-class planets out there, it's like, really?
Well,
It's
if
not
we
just
can
that.
see them, they can see us. So
If they exist, and I am making no assertions either way, I like the idea that we would fight them or they care to conquer us or anything like that is just silly to me. It's like, why would they even bother?
They don't have a human consciousness, Jacob. You can't, you know, like, you know, the whole, what does a bat think like, right? The hard problem of consciousness applies to the aliens too.
Okay.
They might just want to do a
Okay.
hyperspace bypass through, of course. You know, being British, that would be my main worry. Because the Vogons have tried that once. But I think the difficulty is that either if they come in peace, what does that mean? And we exist in a very small technological bandwidth. To get here, they have to be way out there somewhere. So
Yeah.
at that point, we are insignificant and not important. And only if they have some sort of consciousness of the universality of, you know, personhood or whatever you want to call it, will we actually survive an encounter with them. Because if they treat us like we treated animals, or even Red Indians, as we
Yeah, Grizz,
we're not
Grizz is right, Guy. It's very
I'm
hard
sorry.
to hear you.
I'm sorry. Let me see if I can get my mic to speak louder for you.
I would say I'm just going to take the medieval view and just be like they're demons. They're interdimensional demons.
Why not angels?
Fallen angels, maybe, or angels.
Why
who knows?
fallen angels?
I don't know. I just don't. I just want to be medieval about it. I just want to be ignorant. If they exist, I'm going to be xenophobic towards it. I'm joking. No, I don't know. I just if they haven't found water on other planets, I don't think. And
Well,
then at the same time,
NASA estimates there are thousands of planets which are just as habitable as Earth.
even then, we're assuming that they're going to be some super advanced life form, but I think it would just be like bacteria or like some tiny little worm thing. It wouldn't be like this super. That's better, by the way. I don't know. I think we just assume that because they're far away, they're going to be super extremely high intelligent life forms.
Well, if they're far away and they're contacting us, if they're actually sending things all the way to Earth, then they've obviously way superseded our thing. And honestly, so Avi Loeb's book, I think he called it Scout. It's a scary read if you believe the stuff that he says. And I mean, I'm not capable of verifying the things he says, but if the verifiable things he says are true, then it's pretty scary.
They come in non-aggression, so the libertarians were right, and we should all be libertarian.
Flawless logic.
Flawless logic.
Mm. Can you hear me better, by the way?
Much better.
Good. I've changed to my big microphone.
Jacob, girlfriend question. If your girlfriend asks you if you would love her if she were a worm, how do you answer? Yes. You answer yes. Any question that starts with if you would love her, right? The answer is yes. Yes, you would in fact love her. The rest of the if is completely irrelevant.
It would depend. If she was a Hindu, I'd be like, well, if I kill you as a worm, then I'm going to bring you back as a human. So that's actually showing more love. I'm giving you another chance to achieve liberation.
Don't say that to your girlfriend.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work well.
Just don't talk to her.
That's not going to work.
That's the best way.
Of course, if your girlfriend is asking these types of questions, I'm wondering if she might.
Yeah,
Have you married her yet if she's asking those sort of questions?
I hope you have not married her yet. Yes.
Yeah.
It's too late for me.
You've married her and she asks you those types of questions?
Doesn't matter.
Yes.
Going back to our beloved aliens.
Yes.
I think it was. I'm trying to remember in my brain whether it was Larry Niven or Isaac Asimov. One of the sort of, it's almost like an appendix to one of their science fiction stories. It might have been Ringworld, and that's why I'm thinking about Larry Niven.
Mm-hmm.
Did a long dissertation as to how many planets there were in the universe, and therefore how many of them could produce intelligent life if it was like ours, and therefore how many would be within the same historical epoch, so to speak, as us, or at a place, a couple of generations further on, for epochs further on, where they could actually go across space, if such a thing was even possible. And it was quite an interesting sort of nailing down, but it made the universe a scary place.
So Avi Loeb calculated the dimensions of Umau, and if I can find his.
While you're looking that up, I think the interesting question then is, what is God like if there are multiple civilizations, species, etc. out there? Because we have a revelation,
Mm-hmm.
and whether that be Muslim, Christian, or Jewish, and even I think those of the
I don't
Indian
think Muslims have
subcontinent.
the image of God, though. I don't think they have that concept.
That we are made in the image of God. They actually do. It's in the Sunnah. It's not in the Quran.
Oh, it's in Sunnah. Okay, that explains.
But it's very Earth centric. That's what I'm saying. That as if they certainly believe that this particular world, with this particular prophet, and this particular revelation, and I think that's true of all those religions. That therefore, if God has created all these other places, how can salvation come to them? Do they have their own form of salvation? Is there, because it certainly Christianity would see itself as the only way, and I think Islam would certainly think it was the only way. Judaism, I think, struggles with that a bit more, because there are multiple ways, I think, within Judaism to get there. But there was a very interesting. You're getting all my science fiction back to me, Jacob. There was a very interesting short story by somebody who couldn't tell you who it was, about the Jewish Congress in the year 50 75 or something crazy. And, you know, all these weird alien creatures who've become Jewish, and they had to decide whether chopping off bits of a certain tentacle or not was actually what really counted.
So, I've said this before, and I can say it confidently. I'm not saying this is what I believe is the truth. What I am saying is that if this were to happen, it would not in any way conflict with how I understand the contours of Orthodox Judaism to be, in that it could be within the possibility of how we understand interpretations of our tradition. If tomorrow morning a alien spaceship landed on the Temple Mount and it had the dimensions of Ezekiel's temple, and several beings came out of it and said, yeah, we've been trying to communicate with you as best we could, and the Bible is it, and we tried to put the truth of the world into words you guys could understand when the Torah was given on Mount Sinai. That would change nothing in Orthodox Judaism at all. You are muted, Guy.
Would they have to have 4 heads?
Nope.
It's like the Anunnaki, isn't it? Almost. It'd be like a resurgence of like Sumerian and Mesopotamian kind of religion. It'd be like Anki and Anat and all that stuff. It'd be like that. That's how I would see it. I'd be like, what's going on there?
What do you mean? I mean, the idea that there are celestial beings which helps communicate the Torah to us, like the only real sticking point in that would be, we believe Sinai was not through angels, it was directly communicated, but apparently Christians don't have a problem with that. Paul,
yeah, I guess it would bolster the Paul's point, wouldn't it? So that would be the only problem for Jews.
that honestly, no, that's like the only kind of sticking point there is in it. Like if they assert that this is true, right, and our understanding is somehow inferior to theirs, that's not something we have problems with.
So would you see aliens as being like God's agents? So literally angels. Would you see them as angels?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that would be weird. Because it's like, where have they been then? What have they been doing in the meantime? That would be really difficult for Christians, because we'd be like, well, what is like the Archangel Michael? What is the Archangel Gabriel? What like, and then we'd have to go look in Enoch and be like, well, what does that all mean now? Like, you know what I mean? We'd have to be like, well, are there like planets where there's like bad aliens and there's planets where there's good aliens? Like, do you know what I mean?
I mean, honestly, like it's so. David says, Jacob, you just perfectly described Project Bluebeam. I don't know Project Bluebeam. To say that wouldn't change anything is hilariously wrong. It would not in any way violate the beliefs of Orthodox Judaism. And Richard wants to say nothing would change for Christians either. I have to say you would have a very hard time explaining Jesus in that frame as the Son of God and his atonement and all that stuff just doesn't make sense.
I don't think Christianity could survive that in one sense. And
And it
maybe
does
I'm
talk
being,
about the cosmic reconciliation of
yeah,
Christ.
it does,
So
but I
maybe
don't
that
think
could work. I don't know.
I don't think. I think we'd have a big realignment because
The only way that would work is if they somehow said that, like, that's what the virgin birth was, that, like, Jesus was uniquely one of these aliens.
they'd have to say yes to Franklin Graham.
I have no idea who Franklin Graham is.
Franklin Graham, Billy Graham's son.
Oh, okay.
They'd have to be some sort of, yeah, we're going to become Jesus followers because there is only one name under heaven, it says in the New Testament, by which we can be saved.
So all the Jewish people would be like rushing to try and get the aliens to say like the Shema, and then all the Christians will be rushing to be like, no, say the Nicene Creed. We're going to be like, just, you know, it's going to be crazy. Actually, to be fair, if the aliens say one of the creeds, then I think that proves it.
It would definitely gain converts. David says, what if the aliens come back and say we are wrong, right? And if
The
we
very
do
fact
this
that aliens came back would say we were wrong. The very physical appearance of aliens creates the wrongness.
I'm not sure. I don't think Orthodox Judaism would have that problem.
There was a guy a while back who's called Chuck Misler. I don't know if you know about this guy. And he's like he was an evangelical kind of preacher, and he used to say something along the lines of that demons are essentially, or aliens will be demons, and he kind of ties it to Revelation, where it talks about the three spirits that are like frogs. I don't believe any of this stuff, but like it was just interesting that that connection was already being made back in like the early 2000s and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think that's how Christians would probably square it. Some of them, at least.
Well, I think part of the reason Judaism is more capable of seeing it as within the frame of what we can believe is because we're a lot less direct about our insisting that we understand things, that we know how things came to be how they are and how they will be in the future, right? It is fundamentally part of our religion to say that we don't truly understand what much of the Bible is saying, whereas Christianity has this idea that they've unlocked the secrets of the Hebrew Bible.
Book of Hebrews, total opener, can opener, nothing else needed. You know that. Get with the message, Jacob. Get with the message.
Yeah, but Book of Hebrews might not be my favorite book of the Christian Bible. Yeah.
I'm just thinking, I'm getting ready to baptize some aliens. Let's do it. Let's baptize some aliens.
Absolutely.
I'm up for it.
I'm up for it.
I wonder if they'd just like burn up though. That's how you would know if it was a demon.
Nah. Yeah, if it was, yeah. And if you believe too many of the Dan Brown and stories and all those sort of things, yeah. I watched. In fact, I love watching Good Omens on Netflix. Or on Netflix, on Prime. I forgot which it is. And I love it when they got the bath of holy water and they try and dip the demon in it. And you know,
that's exactly what I was thinking of. David, what's his name? David. You know what I'm talking about?
Tennant. Mr. Tennant.
Yeah, Tarrant.
Yes.
Yeah. When he's in the bath of water, just taking a nice old bath in some holy water, and then the angel's in the fire, and he's just there fine. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of, actually.
But yeah, I, as a Baptist, I don't think my baptismal water quite hacks it that way.
Mine does. Yeah, actually getting baptized on Saturday. Just thought
Oh,
I'd throw that in there.
congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so it's been.
You're
Okay.
Antiochian?
No, so I'm it's a bit weird. I'm Russian, so I'm under the Russian Archbishop, but it's something called the Diocese of Sauroj. So it's like specifically for Britain.
Okay.
So it's a Russian, but it's like they're focused on having English, like pre-schism English saints in the calendar, and yeah, so it's like a revival of like.
Is it
old
Western
English.
Rite or Eastern Rite?
No, it's Eastern Rite, but everything's done in English, and some bits here and there are done in Russian, but it feels like
It's
the
not
most
real
English
Russian,
thing
but
I've
it's
ever done.
Church Slavonic.
Yeah, there is some Church Slavonic. Yeah, not Russian. Sorry, it's Slavonic. And actually, that was interesting because I remember you were talking to Father Stephen a while ago, and you were saying something about contracting the divine name. In Russian, they do that for the divine names. Anything that is a name of God, they will actually contract it, and I think in the icon as well, on the halo around Jesus's head, it actually has. You're not going to like this, but it actually says Yahweh, but the Greek version, and it's like it's he is that he is or something, but in Greek, and it's around the halo. So yeah, so there are contractions, but that's a bit scandalous.
So in Los Angeles, we actually have a Western Rite Antiochian church here.
That's interesting. I've always wanted to go to one. It's like Roman Catholic kind of looking, right?
Very much so. Yes, it looks very Roman Catholic, and it looks Roman Catholic, but it's not.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because the priest wears a cardinal's robes, so it's like, an archbishop's robes, kind of like he wears red, whereas like generally, I think only archbishops are allowed to, and cardinals are allowed to wear red. So it's kind of funny seeing him wear his red robes. His red. The robes are black, but seeing the red tinge on his robes, because I know, like, Father Eric could never wear that.
That's interesting because we have, in Church of England, which I'm not a member of, but I'm quite fond of because being British, you can't help it. And I think in the Roman Catholic Church too, that they go different times of the year, they wear different colours. So now is green, I think, because it's ordinary time. White for Easter. There is a red, and I don't know when it is. And the normal priest would wear a red, so all of them wear, when they're doing the communion bit, they go into their holy robes and different colours.
We have the same thing as well. I think we're in ordinary time too, actually. So, we do the same thing. It's usually blue for the Dormition of Mary. So Mary gets the color blue. If it's just normal time, then it's gold. Essentially, everything's gold. Black is for Lent. And then I think there's purple as well on like Good Friday and things like that. And then white when it's the sort of Passover's gone over and it's the resurrection's happened. So I like liturgical colors. I think that's something that makes me feel very more Indian. I feel like that's something going on. It like makes me think of I don't know. It just takes me back. So I like that.
So, is your family going to celebrate the baptism with you, or are they just pretty much ignoring it?
No, they're coming. They're going to come, and I'm like kind of nervous actually because I'm like they're going to see a bunch of people in a room, sort of. They've never been to a liturgical church before. Well, they have, but not like this in a way. This is probably. I don't know what they're going to think of it, so I'm a bit sort of nervous about how they'll react to it. But no.
How many people are getting baptized? Is it just you, or is it a whole class?
I think it's just me. Most of my friends of church have already gotten baptized. I was the one who was putting it off because I wanted to make sure that I was really ready to do this. So I took my time. It's been about 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and when I went for Andrew's baptism, so we were all standing around looking at there's a screen there into the baptistry, and I was in the back, and there was this little kid with his father, and he like tugs on his father, and he says, "Where's the baby?"
Yeah, true. Yeah, they had to get a big one for me. So yeah. Usually, I mean, if we're going by like the official code, it should be like living water is what we're told. So it should be like a river, really.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, as you
That's
said,
interesting because
come out
that's
of
the
Judaism.
first time. Yeah, that's the first time I've heard like Christians using something that qualifies as an actual mikveh for baptism.
Yeah, so Mandaeans, Christians, basically all the early Christian or Jewish kind of sects, they all talk about living water. Everything has to be living water. And that's like the ideal. That's like the top tier. Unfortunately, our rivers are just not looked after in England. It's just people just throw stuff in there, and it's just
yeah. So the mikvahs that we use are specially designed so that the rainwater off the roof pools in a specific pool, and then the mikvahs, the baths that people use. So there's a small like pipeway between the pools. So once the pools are filled with water, then they open the pipe so that the waters kiss. That's what it's called, is a kiss. And that purifies the new water in the baths. So that way they can change the baths on a regular basis. But there's the pool of the rainwater that's used as the actual pool to purify the water.
Does this connect to the tumma idea? Like, is normal water considered tumma, and then when it kisses the
it's not considered tame, but water that is capable of removing impurities cannot be gathered by human beings. It has to be
natural in that sense.
Yeah. So that's why it has to be water that pools by itself, or a spring, or a river, or an ocean, something like that. And that's why, so when they design mikvaot, they make the roof in such a way that all the rainwater comes into there's a vat that holds rainwater, and that's how they fill it up.
Cistern.
Yeah. There's a cistern, yeah.
That's interesting because evangelicals, when we do our baptisms, of course we're adult baptism only as a thing, for the Baptist style, charismatic, whatever even not the liturgical church, born again type people. Then the sea and rivers are often, if they can be used, they are used. But one of the favorite places is to go to just beneath the Sea of Galilee. There's actually a special baptism pool.
Yeah.
And apparently you had to book it nowadays. When I went there, it was just like, anyone can go in and dip, but it's so busy. You have to book in.
Yeah.
Does that qualify as simony? I don't know. That seems like on the edge.
What do you mean it's on the edge? Sorry.
Of simony, charging
having to pay.
for sacraments. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like it's
Probably not.
right on that line. I don't know. Just
it's-
let everybody have it.
But yeah,
all religion has to be paid for somehow.
another thing that goes with Jewish mikvah rituals is you have to be completely, like, you cannot be wearing anything whatsoever, and Christians generally get baptized clothed. So
I said this to some Protestants before. I said the traditional way to get baptized is to be naked, and they looked at me and they were like, "What?" I was like, "That's just I didn't choose it for it to be that way. That's just how they did it. I didn't say like
the Mandaeans have, and apparently the Essenes did as well. They had special linen clothing that they wore for bathing, but that was rejected by rabbinic Judaism.
So when I was baptized in the 70s, my Baptist church had a selection of different sized white robes, all of which had little lead pellets sewn into the bottom of them deliberately, so that when you went into the water, the lead pellets made sure that you didn't show what was going on underneath.
Yeah.
And because, of course, the biblical example is that, that they have washed their robes in the blood of the Lamb, and all this sort of thing. So that being robed was quite, in white, was symbolic of the cleansing process itself, and of course protected people from accidentally becoming visible to others in nudity. Because mitvot, I believe, are quite private spaces with special ladies who look after you in there.
Well, yeah, the
Or men.
ladies. Ladies' mikvahs usually have individual rooms, whereas men's mikvahs tend to be like everybody just goes into the same. Like it's a big locker room, and then there's usually 3 pools of varying heat. There's usually a very hot pool, a lukewarm pool, and a pretty cool
It's a
pool.
sauna, really.
What?
It's a sauna, really.
Kind of, yeah. Oh, many of them actually have saunas. Also, like people, so people go to the sauna. So in Hasidic neighborhoods, people go to the mikvah every day.
I was in Jerusalem on the Feast of Atonement, and I went down to the tunnel, Nehemiah's tunnel. And I was at the entranceway, and I prepared myself. So I had a little plastic bag. I stripped down to my underwear, put my kit in a bag. I didn't have a swimming costume with me, but my underwear was quite respectable, and was about to walk through the tunnel when I was sort of pushed out the way by these 4 or 5 incredibly naked, except for their hats, Eastern Orthodox Jews, who then jumped in. And they were as naked as they were born, except for their hats.
I'm sure they took off the hats when they jumped in.
Yeah, I think, but they still obviously have the kippah. But it was.
Yeah.
But it was like, it was the white, the brimmed ones, not the furry ones, because they definitely wouldn't have survived well in the water. But it was good fun. It was like it was a moment when I had. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So so while any other day of the year, you could or could not go, and people, I mean, especially in Hasidic places, people go, Fridays usually before high holidays, but before the Day of Atonement, that's when every Orthodox community goes. So all of the mikvahs are very, very full, and having young boys, teenage boys go find their own pools, or going. I even remember when, I mean, I was only 20 years old, 22 or 23. I remember with the yeshiva boys, we went up and we went toiveling in places. So yeah, yeah,
Yeshiva
that
Boy
brings up
sounds like a
memories.
rap group.
I'm sure there is, yeah, I am sure there is a rap group called the Yeshiva Boys. I would be shocked if there was not. Yeah.
Is the idea of being naked to do with like a reversal of like or like going back to the Adamic state? Is there something like that in there? Or
No, it's mostly around the idea of the waters have to touch every part of your body directly, and there is some discussion in the Talmud about people who were like, well, no, you should still be modest, and the Talmud rejects that pretty explicitly. It's like it says in front of other men, you should not act um, as if you are ashamed of your circumcision.
is is the idea of the water in Judaism closer to like the is it something to do with like say the operation of God is in the water to clean, or is it what how does that kind of work, if you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, the Bible itself talks about tevilah, talks about um, immersion as a method of purifying not just people, things as well. I mean, we immerse our kitchen, our food, like plates and cookware as well. So
Like we
and
would do a house blessing or something with holy water, kind of.
I mean, it's not even like it is an actual commandment in the Bible to when you buy any cookware from a Gentile to immerse it. It's actually in the Bible itself. I can find it.
That's an interesting thought.
Uh,
I can't think of a reference to that.
um,
It could be like a derived one, or is it verbatim? Wash it after you get it.
There's certainly requirements if things have been mildewed or things have been touched by unholy things. Now, of course, a Gentile probably is an unholy thing.
That's what.
not necessarily. Where is this going from?
While he's doing that, Chris, so you're the only person going. Are they going to use living water, or are they going to be a still pool?
No, so the Didache says it's either living water. If you can't get that, then it can be in like a pool kind of thing. So like if you have a tub of water, it has to be warm, like lukewarm. So like living in the sense of like skin living, right? Like
Right.
human kind of living. So it's kind of warm, and obviously it just feels nicer if there's warm water being poured on you.
Even Baptists let you have a bit of boiling water put into the cold to make sure it's not actually freezing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it was freezing, that would be like you'd really be symbolically doing the new birth thing, because it would be very kind of. But I think it's trying to reverse the pain of childbirth kind of thing. There's that symbolism in there as well. But yeah, I think for me it'll just be a tub, and we don't have the facilities to do like a full immersion, so it will be done by pouring. So yeah, I did ask for full immersion, but we're not a rich church. We don't have the facilities, so
You should ask your local Baptists; they let you do it.
Can't accept the Baptist baptism, unfortunately.
No, I was thinking borrow the baptistry. Every Baptist church has a baptistry, which is a full immersion pool.
I hadn't thought about that. I'm sure.
Your priest needs to reach out to his local to the local fellowship of pastors.
Yeah.
Maybe there's one around, And some.
I think there's the
well
idea
then-
of like the building has to be consecrated as well.
Yes, we
So-
definitely we don't consecrate buildings. We don't believe in that.
Yeah.
So it is now I'm not finding what was the
Yeah,
It's
this
in-
is roughly where I would think it would be.
Numbers 30. It talks about when you
Utensils.
take utensils from um, as plunder, you have to what you call it. It says only the gold, the silver, the copper, the iron, the tin, and the lead, whatever is used in fire, you shall pass through fire, and then it will be clean. It must, however, also be cleansed with sprinkling water, or whatever is not used in fire, you shall pass through water. So because of that, when you buy a new kitchen utensils, we take it to the mikvah, and there's a mikvah.
And is the word water there used? The word used there for water, the living water word, or is it just water?
No, almost every mikvah will have a separate utensils mikvah that has tons of chlorine in it, where you can immerse
properly.
your things. Your utensils.
Is there a word for chlorine in Hebrew?
Guessing chlorine, something like that.
So
Yeah.
chloros is the Greek
Greek.
for a pale green, and the gas of chlorine is a pale green. And actually, one of the 4 horses of the apocalypse, the pale horse, is actually chloros in the Greek. So there you go.
So the way you say chlorine in modern Hebrew is chlor.
Yeah, which is the German version. Oh, look, someone's woken up. Yeah. Oh,
Awesome.
that desert me.
So
That's
we're
really-
going to put aliens into mikvahs, baptistries, and we'll even clean their utensils with chlor. Let's go for it. Let's do it all.
Do you think we're going to go around spraying holy water on the? Cool it down.
I'm certainly going to give it a go. I've got some ready. I'll put it in a little. Well, actually, I'll get my prayer rope and I'll just stop. If they come too close,
the holiest.
yeah, just cross them, get them out of there. I don't know. This is like too high level for me.
But it's fun. The
Yeah.
point is, that you've got to enjoy these things. Otherwise,
Well,
what's the point of having a mind game if you don't enjoy it?
it's
Exactly.
you mean a psyop if you don't enjoy it? So
I've done psyops; they're not pleasant to be on the wrong side of.
I mean, for me, it's just when I looked into the alien stuff and saw that there's a lot more, like intelligent things beyond what most people think of when you talk about alien, right? Like everybody talks about Bob Lazar, and like this is the director of national intelligence. It's not Bob Lazar, it's not some guy out in his. This is the director of national intelligence writing a report to this Congress of the United States. And still, it's. I mean, this is not front page news. How is that?
Has anybody mentioned Father Seraphim Rowe's Religion of the Future at any point in this conversation?
Father Seraphim Rose has been mentioned, but not that particular book.
Yeah, he talks about UFOs in that book, I believe. I haven't read it, but he does talk about it, so I thought I'd just
But
chuck that in
he's
there.
kind of considered a fringe figure in Orthodoxy, isn't he?
Oh, 100%. Well, well, this is where I could get in trouble. So, to the Russians and the Georgians They love him. If you go closer to Greece, I don't think he's got as much notoriety. He's got teachings such as the toll houses.
Yeah, I've heard that. That's very.
That's the controversial one. Yeah, that's the. I'm going to call it theolegumena because I think it is, but some people take that as dogma. And
What's theologumena?
just like a theological opinion that's not really dogma, essentially.
It's something you can believe, but you don't have to.
Yeah, essentially.
Theologumena. So isn't that like God as a vegetable?
I thought legumes were like. Oh no, I thought they were lentils, aren't they? Legumes. God's a lentil.
Sorry. Theology as a vegetable.
Yeah,
I am obviously getting really tired of getting to dad jokes, which is bad news for anything serious that Jacob's trying to achieve in this conversation.
What time is it in Great Britain right now?
10.
10:30.
It's early.
Yeah, the night is but young.
Is there like a certain goal that you wanted to sort of go towards in this, or because I'm good at derailing?
No. The reason I named it ET Phone Homeroom is because we jokingly refer to Paul Vanderklay's channel as Homeroom. That's what Grim Grizz calls it, because kind of his video kind of sets
the tone.
Yeah, the topic that most of the other channels talk about. I have actively been telling people I think we need to be paying more attention to all of the ET stuff. Not because I have a particular view of what we should be believing regarding what's going on in the ET stuff, but just generally, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. So, actually, I was trying to look up what the exact dimensions of Umau are from. One I 2017 U1 is the formal designation of Umau. Also translates to English as Scout. That was the first interstellar object detected in our solar system. And that's why it was in 2017. And Avi Loeb wrote a book about his thoughts about it, including his calculations for the dimensions of it. And if I remember correctly, the dimensions were something along the lines of like 30 meters in diameter and 10 millimeters in thickness. Yeah.
A disc, a two-dimensional disc, effectively. Pretty
much, yes. He seems to believe it's a solar sail because it accelerated away from the sun as it slingshot past it. So it was gaining speed in a way that we were not really able to explain.
The mechanics of solar sails are quite well known.
Well, yeah, I mean, the idea of them are.
The mechanics, in the sense of, if you have a square meter of solar sail and you point it in a certain direction to the sun, you will get so much impulse away from it.
Right. So Avi Loeb was the chairperson of the Harvard physics department for.
Oh, he might know something about it.
Yeah, maybe. So he and apparently he's tried to publish his information, and people have he says the response he receives from most people is, "Are you crazy? Why are you talking about this?" And so for me, yeah, um, for me,
Why would you
it's
do that to an angel?
um, it's so. I mean, this is the Wikipedia article, which does not have um, as much of a it doesn't even, like, the dimensions they give, I don't think includes what Avi Loeb's estimations are. But the trajectory, I mean, that's not even a thing of. So, like, this is not stuff I know about. I am no physicist. I am no, you know, this is not something I personally have a capacity to understand. But it just seems pretty clear to me that if we had any reasonable sort of relevance realization, we would be paying a lot more attention to the information that is out there, and we don't. And I don't want to sound like a crazy person by going around talking about UFOs, so I don't. But when PBK decided to bring up this UFO stuff, I decided to do a live stream, ET Phone Homeroom, to see if people were interested in talking about it. Now, apparently, people are very interested in watching other people talk about it, but few people are interested in actually talking about it.
Just because none of us have any valid, real opinion, because none of us actually can
Have
imagine
qualifications.
the truth.
I mean,
I'm just highly uneducated. That's my thing.
well, and I don't even see a reason for me personally to be educated about it when, Eric Weinstein and Brian Keating, they both have PhDs, one in mathematics and the other in, I believe his is in cosmology, Brian Keating. He is one of the top astrophysicists alive today. And yet people aren't paying attention to people like Brian Keating talking about this stuff. There's plenty of discussion on Brian Keating's channel. What's the name of his channel? Let me find his channel. Brian Keating. Dr. Brian Keating. And if you look at his channel, you will see that he is talking about this stuff as much as it's probably more than it's wise for someone in his position to be talking about this stuff. But he's still at his position at one of the top cosmology laboratories in the United States at University of California, San Diego, and he's a professor, and he's widely respected enough that he hasn't been canceled. But there's if you are genuinely interested in, like, not quackery of talking about the alien stuff, like, Dr. Brian Keating is someone who's capable of speaking about this stuff intelligently. At the same time, like, his channel isn't the most widely, like, he has 120,000 subscribers. His most popular video, which is Eric Weinstein on Joe Rogan talking about Dirac equations, which, I mean, here, let me show it. It obviously, he's making an allusion to aliens in the thumbnail. Like, it only has 3.3 million views. So, don't know what to tell
Compared to
you.
you, Jacob, it's nothing.
3.3 million views for Dr. Brian Keating from the University of California, San Diego. Probably the most active cosmologist on, the most active professor of cosmology on YouTube. 3.3 million seems pretty small to me as the type of attention that this should be getting.
As I say, it's getting late. It is interesting. I mean, I think that as we started, that the universe is so big. God's creation never ceases to amaze, both up and down. Because the small stuff, we still don't understand really how that works. We don't understand and we certainly don't understand how the big stuff fits together properly yet either, and how big the big stuff is. I think that's the other thing that they think they know how big the universe is, but to comprehend that is really hard. I live in a place called Woking.
Oh, you're in Woking? Harry is in Woking. You have to meet up with Harry. Now you have to meet up with Harry.
Who's Harry?
Harry is very active on my Discord server.
The Lord.
Okay.
And he
Harry
lives
is
in
the Lord.
Woking. And you know what? I think I'm going to end this broadcast because, Guy, now that I know you live in Woking, I need to talk to you. I am going to end this broadcast.